All right. Hey, everybody. Welcome to episode 20. Bit of a milestone one here. And we've got Sam Lee and myself, Shane Chalupa. Welcome.
Yeah, this was a fun one. I mean, I pretty much stole the mic for the majority of this call, just talking about updates from my trip. I was in Asia for 2.5 weeks, still processing things, and really used the time today with Shane to process even further just how joyful of a trip it was. But also, there were some cool learnings. I'm sure I'll have even more learnings as I process it over the weekend. But certainly some takeaways as far as maximizing your time, removing distractions, operating at peak performance, even when you think you're unable to do so. I think there were a lot of cool things that we talked about there. Of course, definitely want to shout out a huge milestone for Shane and Mary on the Obnovit side of things. They have an amazing, I think 8 week. Am I mistaken? No, eight
Yep.
weeks.
8 weeks.
8 week accelerator program that kicks off on Tuesday. A lot of work going into this, putting the material for the course together, but also getting the course visible in front of folks that would benefit from it. So yeah, just a quick shout out to Shane and Mary. I know it takes a lot of work to get something stood up for a business, so I'm really excited to um, be the person to announce that it's starting on Tuesday, and certainly really looking forward to hearing about how things go. And I know it's going to be tremendous because it's a program based on the success that Shane and Mary have seen for their own business, and that definitely plays into a lot of professionals out there who are dealing with efficiency problems and the lack of using AI for various reasons, whether it's fear or just not having the right form to learn about it. So, really amazing course being put together. Really looking forward to it. And congrats again, Shane. It's a huge milestone for Obnova and the business. Um, and yeah, I think that wraps it up. Yeah, episode 20, like Shane said, pretty big milestone. Not many podcasts make it to this episode. So grateful that I have someone like you to do this with, and we really hope you enjoy this one.
Yeah. Likewise. Enjoy.
Hi, Shane.
All right. Hey, Sam. How's it going?
It's going good. Good to see you again, man. Happy Friday. How are you doing?
Awesome. Yeah. Happy Friday. Great to see you. Big episode milestone here, episode 20. Oh,
Oh my
man.
goodness. I think early on when we started this podcast, I was just doing some research and there was a crazy stat. And I think, if I'm remembering correctly, only 10% of podcasts make it past the first three episodes. And then of the 10%, only I think 90% of it does not make it past the 20th episode. So it's like a really, really small number that makes the 20th episode. And yeah, I'm so thankful to have you and wouldn't want to be at this milestone without anybody else, man. It's been quite the journey.
Yeah, likewise. It's been almost over a year now since we kind of reconnected and got this idea and plan, and then got it launched and off the ground pretty quickly. Wintertime last year, and here we are, 20 episodes in. Man, life has changed a lot, and we might as well just get into it because we're gonna have a little bit shorter episode today, I think, than normal, but that's okay. We're gonna pack it full of updates, both from the personal and the professional side, I think.
Yeah, I mean, for all the listeners out there, I wasn't here for the last episode, and there was a reason why. I was doing a bit of traveling. Want to shout out Mary for hopping in, and if you guys didn't tune in, make sure you guys check out episode 19 because it was packed with some really good dialogue, really good um, just tidbits. As an entrepreneur, as to um, parents of kids running a business together. There's just so many good things in there, so definitely check it out. But yeah, I've been away for about 2.5 weeks, traveling Asia, going to South Korea for about a week, and then heading over to Japan for about a week and a half. Man, honestly, I got back. My wife and I got back Wednesday night, and I was just right back into the swing of things of like catching up with clients and going into meetings. So I haven't really even processed it until like the last 30 minutes right before jumping on this. to recording this episode and got to processing like a little bit of the trip. I still can't wait to like spend the weekend to like really um, kind of absorb everything that we experienced there, and not to make it this kind of um, I don't know, trip that like had so much meaning into it. It was just fun to like see people, but in some ways there were such meaningful moments, and those are the things that I want to process a little bit more. Um, but man, this trip has been something that my wife and I have wanted to do since we got married. Um, Given that our parents immigrated here and we still have family in Korea, it just always felt right to go. And honestly, shame on us for not going sooner. But better late than never. And it was definitely one of the more memorable trips that we've had. If I split it into two between Korea and Japan, Korea was a lot of like family things, right? We have my father-in-law who we don't get to see very often because he has a business out in South Korea. So either he comes here once a year, or we try to make it out there to see him. And um, was the longest kind of extended time that I was able to spend time with my father-in-law. And we were at a place called Chuncheon, which is where he was born and raised. He's now working there, so it has a lot of like meaning to like visit someone in their hometown. And it was such a pleasure to get to know him a little bit more, grow even more comfortable with him. Um, and so aside from meeting, well, not meeting, but spending time with my father-in-law, I got to spend time with my grandma, who is now 101 years old. First time my
Wow.
wife has met her. Um,
Amazing.
yeah, so incredible. And so grateful that, she's still alive and we were able to make it out there to see her. Um, alongside my grandmother, um, my uncle's also out there kind of taking care of her. And he is, my goodness, I think I got to share some more like detailed information about his life and his works. But he's a true artist. He's a photographer, a black and white photographer who still develops his own film. He showed us his studio, brought us to where he does all of his work. And so we got to meet a lot of family, and that's not even half of the people that we met. Saw a friend of mine who I haven't seen in over 6 years. Saw friends who were moving to Vietnam. It was kind of our last meet, and serendipitously we were in Korea at the same time. So there was a lot of just like get-togethers during that time, just in South Korea, where like we experienced the city with other people, which was so cool. Either people that are local or people that were traveling into South Korea at the same time. It was such a great way to experience the city. Um, and yeah, it was a really just kind of healing time of healing as well in so many ways, to either reconnect or connect with people for the first time. And my goodness, I'm still processing things, so I'm still processing as I kind of go back and think about my time there. But man, it was I think ultimately like my takeaway from my time in Korea was that I almost forgot who I was, like, forgot about my day-to-day life here, and got to really immerse myself and really put myself in the positions of the people that I was, interacting with, whether it was my father-in-law, my grandmother, my uncle, my friends, whoever it might be. Like, it was really a true, like, disconnect in a way, um, but also, like, a way to experience culture and, um kind of put myself in the position of other people that are living in such a different way, and in that way, it was so refreshing that I didn't have to be thinking about almost who I was, or like the responsibilities that I hold on to, um, and yes, so that part of the trip was amazing, and then Japan was just a different culture in and of itself, right? Like the first and last time I went to Japan, it was for a couple of nights. It was with a bunch of guys, a bunch of my guy friends, and it was an awesome time. But it was so short that I couldn't really experience the culture. And being there for about a week and a half, it was still wasn't that long of a time. But my wife has a cousin there, and so we got to experience Tokyo and some neighboring cities through a local. Like he's lived there for I think about 5 years, if I'm not mistaken. So he speaks the language. He's I'd consider him a local at this point. Um, and man, if it wasn't for him, I don't think we would have got to really experience and learn about the culture unless we took like some tours or whatnot, which we didn't have scheduled. But man, I learned so much about the Japanese culture, both from like the younger generation's perspective, but also from like the millennials and boomers, the generation that I guess we kind of interact with or have interacted more with in our lifetime. And it's just so different in so many ways. And it, I truly felt like I was in another world. And again, forgot about who I was for a solid week and a half outside of like the pockets of time where like I did work or did stuff for my marathon training. Outside of that, it really felt like I was learning every single moment, observing, maybe too much, just kind of staring too much at everyone's kind of like behaviors and interactions. But um, yeah, again, experiencing some of those, some of the time there through someone that lives there, but also just being really observant of like how people go about their days, how respectful they are, how quiet they are. Um, their mannerisms, like all of that was so unexpectedly different in the best way possible. That I ultimately came back, super jet lagged, but mentally felt so refreshed um, and also grateful for like where I'm at in life. Not from the perspective of like comparing and contrasting, like, whoa, I got it so good in this way, whoa, I got it so bad in this way, but like I said, like for almost 2.5 weeks, it felt like I completely disconnected with who I was as a person and really just threw myself into um, a completely different world for 2.5 weeks. And in that way, I came back so refreshed and everything looks like a brand new thing right now. Like I have to acclimate myself again to a new time zone, obviously, but also to like how I go about my day and my mannerisms and what who I respect, what I respect, my approach to the smallest to the biggest things in life. It seems so new to me right now because I was so lost in a good way. So yeah, I have a lot more processing to do, but that's kind of my initial takeaways right now from yeah the 2.5 weeks of traveling that I did. I don't know if any of that
Um,
made sense, but I'm still kind of processing this trip because it was one hell of a trip.
yeah, no, thanks for sharing that in the update. And what you mentioned really resonates because I'm actually reading a book right now called The Power of Now. And it's interesting because I think a lot of what you experience of kind of going to this other world feeling is when you do that, you're almost forced to be omnipresent and so conscious of what you're doing in every moment because it's new. And really, the book, The Power of Now, is about getting outside of your brain in that's always doing this thinking, and more so just living in the moment and understanding like, hey, I don't have any problem. Like if you really drill down, it's like I don't really have any problem at this set split second now moment in time. And I feel like travel is such a great gateway, especially when you go to another country and all that, because everything is new and you're just so present. And then that is so restorative. And ultimately, I'm not fully done with the book yet, but the big point is that the more you can focus on being present all the time in kind of now and just being, that's achieving enlightenment essentially. And I have found that too, where when we're traveling, our memory is so vivid because we're literally just taking it second by second, and a lot of those day-to-day burdens and routines and habits and things start to fall away, and you're just really living in that present moment and not getting so caught up in the future and things that have to get done, and what's kind of overwhelming you, but you're just really interacting with the world in a completely different way. So that is absolutely awesome. And I could imagine coming back jet lagged, but also really restored, to kind of like a memory reset on the computer almost.
Absolutely. And as you were saying that, I think you're so right because this I had this constant feeling of like I'm really maximizing every minute of my day. This is what I was thinking during the trip. Um, and it wasn't really like a conscious decision, but I think because I had work to do, I had marathon training to do, and in between all that, I wanted to still experience the city that we were in. Um, I guess I just naturally thought like I just want to be as present as possible, no matter what it is that I was doing. Work, running, working out, or traveling, eating, whatever the case may be. Um, and I think that juxtaposes my life in such a revealing way because when I'm home, maybe because I am so comfortable and I have this structure to lean on, maybe I'm not always present in what I am doing. Because I could be, filming this podcast with you, but I know immediately once we hit the stop button, there's five other things that I need to do. And I think I didn't have that luxury while traveling because I had such a finite amount of time each and every day that I was forced to maximize each moment and be present each moment. And maybe that is something that I need to get better at. Um, just maybe not having work and life blend over each other too much, or my marathon training and this and that other thing blend over each other too much, but really give myself a clear stop and a start and a stop time to things and be as present as possible because it really makes for a better life, I think. Not to make this whole trip such like this revelation, but there are some learnings that I would like to take away from it. And on the flip side of things, there were things that I tried to remove from my day because it would just be a big distraction, um, like drinking. When I'm home, yeah, I'll meet up with friends, have several drinks, and I think that's fine. And that absolutely is totally fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But when I was traveling, I knew that, although I really wanted a couple of drinks with dinner, that I needed to go back home and get in 4 hours of work before going to bed. So those things almost forced my hand to remove some of the things that would um, kind of prevent me from performing at my best. And maybe those are some things that I need to um, kind of take away with me as I, come back and get into a flow of things. And it's not even just alcohol; it's stuff like, doom scrolling. I think we all suffer from this, right? Um, I didn't find myself doom scrolling as much for a silly reason because I had like 5 gigs of data that I needed to use before I'm like, then I need to like re up and pay for more data, blah, blah, blah. It's not even that much money, but like part of me was like, I don't want to spend any, extra money that I don't need to. So, hey, let me not go on Instagram when I'm not on Wi Fi, out and about. And maybe those little things, I didn't intend it to be such a positive factor to my experience, but now, somewhat processing things now and looking back at things like those are true distractions that I think even back home in America, if I can try to limit, those distractions as much as possible, maybe I can recreate and recreate that feeling of maximizing each and every moment, being as present um, as possible because the outcomes were fantastic. The outcomes were Yeah, it's something that I would love to be able to experience more often and more consistently.
Yeah, that I anticipate. It's hard to say because I'm not in your body and in your conscious, but I would say that you may have experienced an extended period of flow, the way that you're talking about it. And it's interesting because it actually aligns really well with two books that I finished up recently. And they both talk about similar points, but The first one is 10x is easier than 2x, and the other one is free to focus. And they each have like kind of different perspectives and whole different premise of what they're written for, but the core messaging is the same. And it's like, if you focus on the and are very hyper focused on exactly what you want to do, and whether that's time blocking or pomodoro, whatever it is, if you set yourself on that and evaluate your day to make sure those points or those time blocks are as focused as can be on the 20% of things that move 80% of your life, whether that's business or personal, you'll actually see way bigger gains than just constantly looking at that 100% of the day and doing that 80% of the stuff that doesn't make any value or move the needle for you. Like you said, like doom scrolling, or for me, like checking LinkedIn and different stuff that doesn't maybe necessarily add value, but you can actually do a lot more by doing less, is how I would summarize the big messages from both of those books. It's actually like cutting out and separating from a lot of stuff, focusing on what actually matters and doing that at a super pace, and then giving yourself really finite blocks, and you'll see like this growth. And so it'd be interesting to hear your side of it, if your business actually grew more while you were away.
Man, I don't know if it's serendipity, but it actually did. And also, I don't want to say it's because of all the things that I did within those 2.5 weeks. There were certainly a lot of things that I did prior to going on this trip, um, that allowed for me to have some really exciting wins during my time away. But man, it was, I think, on the client, like existing client side of things, I really was efficient with my time, and almost to the point where I realized that maybe I was not operating at the most efficient level back at home. Um, and I think that was strictly down to like me forcing my hand on, like, you have 40 minutes to do this one deliverable. Let's get it done, or else we're not going to make it out in time to, go walk around this neighborhood, whatever, continue our vacation. So in that respect, I think I grew as an an executioner of deliverables. Um, on the sales and marketing side, not necessarily from me being more efficient, but certainly um, maximizing my time as far as giving myself, an hour at night, hour in the morning, to make sure that I'm continuing conversations with potential clients. I'm so glad that, I forced myself to still do that, and not just like take a few days off or a week off. Um, because the business has grown while I was away. We signed on a new client who's going to start um, November 1st.
Wow,
Um,
incredible. That's
yeah,
so cool.
yeah. That was an awesome win. We have a verbal commit. We have a contract out right now for another client, a much smaller engagement, but nonetheless a new client. Also slated to start November 1st. Um, we have a couple of proposals out for review. Those, I would say, 80% is going to happen. Um, and then we have another proposal out for review. So all of this was pretty much done through kind of continuing conversations, and not, being so radio silent while being away.
Hmm.
Um, and I think that does ultimately come down to, me removing some of those distractions, um, giving myself the opportunity to still operate at a high level, given the time zone difference and the, you know, kind of the that's it's tiring traveling. You're walking a lot. Like, you could easily just come back and just nap or sleep or whatever, but forcing myself to, you know giving myself the opportunity to at least perform at a high enough level to continue this conversation. I think it's certainly, um yeah, there was some relationship between me, you know trying to operate at a high level, and the business growing during my time away. So really, really, grateful for all the things that have happened. Um, and yeah, there's a lot of work to be done now.
Amazing. Yeah. I mean, I'm in a couple different AI and business coaching programs, and I can't tell you how many times I hear where somebody will say, I went away for a week, family vacation or travel overseas or whatever. I just, went out to a complete disconnect and was out camping, whatever it was, right? They left the business, they were worried about it. And then they came back and found out, like, wow, we actually had like our biggest project or we had our best month. And I personally think there's like two primary things at play there. And the first one is Parkinson's law, which is basically the amount of time you give for a task is how long it will take. And so if you give yourself a really short amount of time, you're going to put in a much higher level of effort over that shorter time. And I think you can drive better outcomes and ultimately drive more efficiency that way. And then the second one is this idea of really it's the Pareto principle applied to everything, which um, I had always heard about the 80-20 rule and the Pareto principle, but being in business and all these programs and all the stuff that I've been doing over the last like year and a half, man, 80-20 comes up all the time and it is so true. And so if you just narrow down on that 20% of things that really are going to move the needle, like you again, if you're going away, you kind of it auto filters that stuff to be like, what is the most important stuff that I have to do? And that's going to drive 80% of our results. And so you naturally put more attention and you're being more efficient with it. So you just drive more outcomes and it's not linear, it's like exponential. And so you see, I've heard so many stories and even experienced it myself where if I kind of step back, do some cutting, do some efficiency, productivity gains, and focusing, I actually get better outcomes than if you're working. Also, the other thing is statistically, after you hit like 50 hours of work in a week, you're actually going to work, it goes against your productivity and you actually start getting less productive, such to the point where you're actually like detracting from the total work output that you did that week. So you really want to monitor those hours because if you're going over that like 30-40 mark, it starts to be diminishing returns and then to a point where it's actually detrimental. So there's certainly something to be being said about like prioritizing and being present, and those two in combination create this energetic universal power that delivers for you. So it's really cool just hearing your story, and then kind of I'm reading these. I've read so many books over the last 3 years, and all of them like boil down to a lot of the same principles, and it's like very cool to see that realized, and then hear the story from you firsthand.
Yeah, and you know what? Like, I didn't think prior to this trip I had an issue with how I was prioritizing things, but I think I was prioritizing to getting everything done versus prioritizing to get the only absolute necessary things done at a high clip. Um, I'm not, to be honest, man, like I don't even know what the right thing is, right? Like if I do have all the time, I mean, look, I don't have kids, I don't have a dog, like my responsibilities are my list of responsibilities are a lot shorter than a lot of people out there, I think. So I have the blessing of time on my hand, at least for now. And so maybe I was prioritizing to get everything done, which is I think still okay to do, but when I do have a finite amount of time. When I was traveling, I think prioritizing to get the most important things done definitely was pretty eye opening, and maybe something that I, you know, kind of focus on a little bit more moving forward. And then the reason why I say that is for someone that thought that he didn't have a problem with prioritizing, that just goes to show that like anybody could use a bit of a reset, like take a step back, whether it is through a vacation or I don't know, just maybe test it out for a couple of weeks, test out prioritizing in a different way. Maybe you can unlock, a more efficient, more balanced day by prioritizing a little differently. So, not this isn't just about us talking about things. We want to provide some value. So, even if you think you're prioritizing well, you're getting all of your things done on your Monday board, your to-do list. maybe that's not the best use of your time. Test out different ways of prioritizing things and revisit and see if it actually made your work or your life a little bit more productive and more efficient.
Yeah, 100%. And it's funny because I kind of been going through the same exercise personally after reading again 10x is easier than 2x and then free to focus. And the other neat part about both of those books is they give you a framework, which I'll go through right now, which is pretty quick. And it's essentially start off your day, list out some things that you're grateful for. I would say minimum of 3, and then go through, look at your time blocks for your day and your calendar, look at your list of things to do, and align the top 3 things that you could, or pick the top 3 things you could do to align with your longer term goal. And setting your longer term goal is a whole nother exercise that we'll get into at some other point. But you have to pick that longer term overarching goal and then break it down into smaller chunks, whether that's probably going to look like every quarter and then every month and then every week. And once you got your week set up, then you can drill down to each day. And it's like pick the top 3 things that if you only got those 3 things done that day, it would drive you kind of that 80% of results towards your goal, and then just do that day after day. And it's amazing because in the book, it's like, imagine if you focused so much on the top 3 things every single day, you would end up doing, let's just say nominally 50 weeks in a year that you work on it. And you do 3 things per day. So you got 15 times 50. So you're at like 750. So it's like, I think in the book, it's like 700 and some really high quality actions and tasks that you complete that drive directly towards your goal. And the results from doing that are so much better than just doing, like, a lot of people, I think the average is said is like people will have 15 things on their to-do list, and you probably have that and then you don't get them all done. Then you feel bad the next day or that night. And then you wake up the next day and you're like, oh, I just have more on my list. And then you keep doing that cycle. And instead, if you just write those things off to the side to track them, but pick the 3 things that are the most important every single day, do just those 3 things. If you have more time, great. But if not, do those 3 things. And then that compounded over the course of weeks, months, years is what drives long-term big results.
I'm just thinking right now, it might be fun for us to do something like that for 2026. Not like do it while we're recording, but like share what our goals are and what those activities might be. And it might be a fun journey for folks to follow along. After 12 months, we can report back on how we are tracking and pacing towards those goals. I certainly am at that point in the year right now where I'm starting to think about 2026 a lot,
Mm-hmm.
what my goals are. So yeah, I mean, I can volunteer myself and share what my goals are for my business, for my life, for 2026, and it might be a fun thing to keep track on and come back to once, we're at the near of the end of 2026.
Yeah, I think episode 1 we went through goal setting, so
Oh
we
yeah,
could
we
actually
did.
revisit that and then project out, kind of chalk up what we got done in 2025, and then look at how we're going to set up for 2026. And yeah, it's I ironically I've had a journal sitting around for a while that I just never like got into using, but I made the commitment last week. Let's see, so 2 weeks ago now, and it's called bestself.co, and it's called the self journal, or best self journal. And it's actually set up really nice because it has every single day, it has you set your goals for a 13-week kind of sprint, or however you want to look at that. And then you break down your goals from that 13 weeks into each week, each day. And then each day has actually your time blocking on the one side, your top 3 things you want to get done that day, a lessons learned area. So it's been really useful, and I've been using it for like just my business journal. And I'll tell you what, I absolutely love it because I think I got like digital fatigue working with AI and on the computer all the time. It was like I just was having a roadblock or a little bit of a block there. Like using AI to manage all my tasks for me, which I have built and do use it inside of like a Notion board. But there was something about writing it down and having that physical connection to it that has really driven it home. And I felt, I don't know, just different using that. So if anybody's out there, shout out to Best Self Journal and try it out. 13 weeks inside of one journal. And then I think they have like another version of it that's more of like planning out your year. So you can plan out your year and then use these individual ones as like smaller modules for the 13 weeks each quarter of the year, which is really fun.
Nice. Wait, so bestself.co, like that, it's like a physical notebook, but it's
Oh, yeah,
like,
that's just the website.
oh, gotcha,
Yeah,
gotcha,
it's called, yeah, Best Self Journal is the company,
gotcha.
or yeah, Best
And
Self.
I'll check it out, but so the journal is templated and structured and formatted in a way that allows you to kind of back into that 13-week goal. Is that how it
Yeah.
works?
Yeah,
Gotcha.
exactly. Yeah. It'll
Cool.
probably be backwards on the screen, but and hard to see because of the focus. But yeah, it's got the way that it's structured and everything, it's very nice and very easy to fill out and it's not overwhelming. So it's something you can do in like 15 minutes in the morning, 15 minutes at night. You got to spend a
Nice.
little time setting out your 13-week goals, but it worked out nicely because I started it in the beginning of October. So it's kind of like my fourth quarter goals. And so we'll see how that drives forward. And yeah, fits in with part of like there's a really cool custom GPT that I have through one of my coaching programs. And we had a 30K in 30 days challenge for the different business owners. And it was really, the custom GPT is centered around 10x is easier than 2x, which is a book about setting goals and the fact that if you set goals that are 2x of where you're currently at, you kind of just get linear results and you actually end up just being like, oh, well, I'll work more hours. Like I work 40 hours now, I'll work 80, and kind of growing in that way instead of if you 10x that goal and say, I'm doing 40 hours of work this week and I want to get to a revenue number that would be commensurate with 400 hours per week. I can't actually work that hard. So I actually have to start mentally thinking about what systems, automations, what people am I going to hire or subcontract out to. And so the 10x goal is not necessarily about achieving that 10x. If you do, great. It's more so about shifting your thinking to think exponentially instead of linearly, and start kind of really driving that home in your mind and then translating that into your life.
I love that, man. I love that. Well, look, I feel like I've been updating selfishly on things that um, I've been doing the past couple of weeks. But man, what's been going on your end? I know you have um, a like a master class kicking off soon. I know you're running a marathon and probably I think it's a week. I think it might be the same day that I'm running my marathon. I'm
November
sure
9th. So yeah, we got what,
you
two
got a
weeks
couple
come. Yeah, 2 weeks on Sunday.
2 weeks
So
on
that's,
Sunday.
yeah, it's exciting coming up. What day is yours on?
The second.
Oh, okay. So you're just a week out. So that's awesome. I
Yep.
actually had dinner with the engineering group here in the Lehigh Valley last night, and one of the guys ran a lot of marathons, and he said, "Quick, useful tip and trick here. We just throw it all in our podcast. It's hilarious how we parlay into fitness, right? From business to travel. It's I love this." And his tip was the number of days out you are from your marathon is the number of miles you should be running. So, and of course, there's like a limit to that, right? Like, probably, I think he said like 3 weeks out would be a 21, 22 mile type thing. And then as you go day by day down closer to it, you're going to go through your like deload or unloading. And so it's like, okay, if you're 2 weeks out, 14 miles in a clip, and then 1 week out, do 7 and taper down heading into it. So that was a pretty cool little rule of thumb that I liked and lined up with. Of course, I used AI to help me come up with just like a super simple plan, and that little rule of thumb lined up pretty well with it.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely in my taper phase right now. I've also used chat to help out some like mini planning week to week. I have like an overarching plan and training block, but it's been helpful just to get because you know how it is. There's so much that goes into it aside from just running. There's fueling, there's mobility. There's so many other things that go into it, and I feel like the last 2 weeks, um, really important. The taper phase and the fueling the last couple of days before race day, especially for a marathon. Um, the carbo loading, the amount of grams per kilograms of weight, like those are all things that people might not be thinking about, but it almost I feel like is more important than some of the running in the last couple of weeks because you can't really improve your fitness in the last 7 to 14 days. You're
Yep.
pretty what you got is what you got at this
Yep.
point. So
Yeah.
focus
You
on the
built
things
it.
that actually help. Yep, for sure. It's like the nutrition and the deload. I think is so critical. And yeah, I'm excited for the carbo load. I just want to say that on the side.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and then the other really good rule of thumb was like 2 weeks out, you can't do a whole lot to improve your marathon, right? Like you said, but he said you can do a lot to hurt it. And I think that fits in really well with what you were saying is like taking care of the body, mobility, food, and the nutrition and hydration, all of that leading up to it is really important. And yeah, it all ties together. You back to like 10x is easier than 2x if you just kind of put out some of these like milestones on your calendar to do something. Like you will start to change your life and your systems and habits to work towards that. And this is one of those where it's like a great example of how you set that goal. You kind of work backwards. You set weekly, monthly goals going into it, and then you just kind of work through and build that up. And as long as you're focused on what you got to do that week, um, then you have a really good chance of success. And I would say like the only other thing that I've noticed is with goal planning and then executing is a lot of people out there might feel this way and you might feel this way as well, but I'm a big like overachiever, high achiever. And so my mental state is like, get everything done every single day, check it off the list. And I've really changed that mindset over the last 3 years. And to the point where in the last couple months, it's like literally been just saying, okay, this is what today gave me, and I fit this in the time block that I had. And it might not have been the exact thing that I had planned for the day, but I got something on the scoreboard, and just stacking those, even if it was like, oh, I wanted to do 8 miles, but I only got 4 in today because whatever ran over. But if I just stack a bunch of those up and you look even at your week, if you just do 2, 3, 4 miles a day spread over 7 days, you're like at 28, you're like 28, 30 miles versus saying like, I got to do 8 every other day and then missing them for a couple of days. Like then all of a sudden you're at like 16 miles. And so it really has shown me that consistent action and sometimes stepping back and it's not really taking the foot off the throttle. I would say it's more of focusing where you're going to go full throttle and just getting on the scoreboard that day and giving yourself credit. Because it's like life is it's not linear, and you're not going to be on this like exponential path that's very um like just super point to point. It's like jagged. It's like up and down and up and down, injury, down for a couple of weeks and back up. And it's really about keeping the trend. It's like the trend line is what I was trying to say earlier. It's like get that trend line going exponentially and stay on your trend line instead of worrying about being so linear point to point and like perfect gains every single day almost.
It's so hard to like get into that like mind frame though, right? Like I'm with you. I'm like that where I need to get everything done in the day that I set out to do, and if I don't, I kind of get hard on myself. I've also gotten better at that. Um, I think what triggered it for me was as silly as it sounds, it was when I got injured from running. Like, because I couldn't physically do what I wanted to do anymore. I needed to, pull the reins a little bit and do what my body allowed me to do. I don't know if that has translated yet. I don't think that has translated yet to like the business side of things or maybe some other like personal side of things. But for you, like what triggered it or how do you kind of implement that framework to areas that maybe your hand isn't really forced, right? Like you're still capable if you wanted to like I don't know, burn the midnight oil and get to the end of your to-do list. But maybe it's just through books that you've read or just life experience, maybe having kids too, just like not enough time in the day. Like, can you point to a single moment in time that kind of triggered this change, or has it been a slow burn to um, you know, get into this state of like maximizing as much as you can as far as what the day is giving you?
Yeah, I think it's been evolutionary and not necessarily one exact point, but I do know there's a couple of things that I'll talk through that I've gone through over time. Like there's this belief of like entrepreneurial or entrepreneurship, let's say, and this notion of like working 70 plus hours a week and all of that, and just like that grinding mentality. And I had started the year kind of in that boat and then actually got injured physically, the same, Achilles injury. So that forced me to step back a little bit. And then that kind of threw a wrench into my normal routine because for like 10 years straight, I was in such a routine with doing CrossFit. And then I threw in a lot of heavy exercise and running that led to physical injury. And then I had to change my routine and everything. And then I would say since then it's been evolutionary, a combination of reading books and trying different things and seeing how I feel throughout the day. And ultimately all those roads led to just being like, um, I just need to try something different to see how it works. And I guess probably one of the impetuses was, or one of the triggering points was the end of September. In my one program, it's an AI program, but also it's all business owners and or folks who are in business. And we started this challenge. It's really based on 10x is easier than 2x. And one of the big things in that is like you have to envision yourself running a company that's 10x what you're doing today. So if you're doing 20K a month now, you have to envision every day for 30 days straight that when you wake up, your company is generating 200K a month. So it's like a $2.4 million company. And that looks and feels a lot differently. And so you set that goal, then you kind of get into that mindset every day. And when you do that in the morning, you have to ask yourself a series of questions that really focus you on those three things of like, if I were the owner of a 200K a month MRR company, what would my day actually be like? And what is my ideal day at that point? And it's like, oh, okay, that kind of it lightens you up a little bit in a sense because you start thinking like, well, I would delegate a lot because I would have a team. We'd have systems built out and I would be focusing on the things that really drive the business. And so for me, that drove into marketing and sales because that's like the biggest piece for growth right now. And so then over those 30 days, we've had our biggest 30-day stretch ever in the business side, which is exciting. And yeah, we're kicking off on Tuesday. We're kicking on our first 8-week AI accelerator. So we're going to have 90 minutes on Thursdays, 60 minutes on, or sorry, 90 minutes on Tuesday afternoon and 60 minutes on Thursday afternoon. We've got folks from a bunch of different industries. Mostly everybody's got like an engineering background, and they're in a business that may not be engineering specific. We got a lot of engineering, but engineering and related businesses that are kind of technical focused. And we're going to really go from laying the foundations for AI integration into the business and daily life through actually building out their own strategic plans, roadmaps, and pilot projects for their business to kind of completely transform their business with AI over an 8-week period. So really excited and our first time ever. I'm super grateful for all the people that signed up. And I think we're somewhere between 15 and 20 participants now. So it's been way more successful than I could have ever imagined and look forward to delivering big time and generating a ton of value and just teaching and educating.
That's so amazing, man. Congrats on all the traction that you've made. I know a lot goes into it from, figuring out what the course is going to be about, putting all the material together, then, like you said, sales and marketing to get people, to get the program visible in front of people. If people, I think this episode will come out right before, like the day before, the accelerator program begins. But let's say someone does hear about it on Monday. Can they still sign up, or are the signups closed for this session?
So chances are we'll soft close registration this afternoon, but you could always reach out. We've got room. We definitely got room for participants. So if you're interested, you could reach out. Catch me on LinkedIn, Shane Chalupa, Chalupa. Just direct message me, or you can send an email to support@obnovit.com. And that's obnovit.com, and we could work it in, I'm sure. We've got, it's really great. We've also, as a part of this, the folks who sign up, they've got access to a free online resource library that's called the Foundations course that I built. And it's really a self-paced training with kind of all the essential groundwork to really build that strong foundation up in just AI, what it is, how you use it. Goes through prompting, and we even get into a little bit more advanced side of the prompting before the course will pick up. But it's a really great just primer for it. So that's available 24/7 if anybody's interested for that as well. It's out there and available, self-paced.
That is amazing, man. Well, look, I know today was a bit of a shorter session. Anything else on the side of Novit that you want to give a quick update to the listeners, but also to myself? I mean, I'm sure a lot of time spent on the accelerator program, but anything else happening on the Obnovit side?
I think my biggest thing as of late has been um, really just focusing on marketing and sales and finally getting enough data and feedback and traction to like see the light of like what marketing really is. Never having come from that area, it's like, wow, it's really cool to have some lead gen and then have different sales meetings set up for consecutive weeks, having those slots filled, and how important marketing is. I think as an engineer, and there's probably a lot of other professional service people out there who don't appreciate how hard it is to generate qualified leads and then go through a sales cycle and get people to convert. And so a deep appreciation for that, and something that we're really trying to improve and exercise and systematize for our business. But it's been exciting and learning a lot. So if anybody ever wants some tips and tricks on all the lessons learned that we've had over the last 10 months of going really hard at it, I'd be happy to share that playbook for sure.
And look, I'm going to take you up on that offer because that's one of the next big things that I want to solve for, which is coming up with a proof of concept for how to market what the services that I'm providing. Um, to a certain degree, I kind of do it through the leads that come through word of mouth, but those are
Mm-hmm.
already pretty warm leads. But it's a totally different ball game when you're doing cold outreach, really nurturing from a cold contact into a client. So I'm really excited. It's stuff that I've consulted and managed,
Mm-hmm.
but for my business, it's a whole different ball game because I have to be very honest about my services, um, and yeah, it's going to be a fun journey. I'm slating Q1 of next year to be a big sales and marketing push on my end, and coming up with a proof of concept that hopefully has some great learnings for which I can then hire someone to take over that process for me. But yeah, I would absolutely love to hear more about your journey, maybe in some future episodes, and some tips and tricks that could at least help me and help our listeners out there as well. That would be amazing, man.
Yeah, definitely. I got a good one in mind. Another book that I started reading from Donald Miller, who wrote Story Brand, which is a really good starting point. And then he has like a follow up on that. That's more of like a tactical guide. And so I've been deep into that. And it's great because it's super simplified, and all of it is kind of lines up with where we ended up after like months and months of trial and error and working through different things. So that'll be a good one. We'll mark that down for episode 21. We'll go through a Shane's marketing lessons learned, and what works, doesn't work, and what we're working on to hopefully stand it up and keep it running.
That's awesome, man. Well, look, thanks for giving me the room today to be able to share, some of the personal updates that I've had from my trip. Best of luck, man. Take the weekend to appreciate the calm before the storm of the accelerator program kicking off on Tuesday. I'm sure and I'm absolutely confident that it's going to be a smash. You've been working so hard on it, not just from the perspective of providing value to others, but it actually providing value to your own business. You're walking proof of it. So I'm just glad that you're now getting the platform and the room and the forum to be able to share all the things that have really accelerated your business, and I know will definitely have some positive impact for your participants as well. So best of luck to that journey. Yeah, and any last final words before we hop off today's episode?
No, thank you for sharing everything. This was a really fun one. We kind of went through a lot of different stuff. And if anybody wants to get in touch with either of us, Sam, what's the best way to get a hold of you?
Just on LinkedIn, Sam Lee. You can find me there. That's where I'm most active. If you want to shoot me an email, sam@keyriseconsulting.com. Would love to hear from you all.
Nice. And yeah, the best way to reach out to me is on LinkedIn as well, Shane Chalupa. Or if you're interested in any of the training and education offerings that we've got, or would just like to talk about AI for your business, support at obnovit, obnovit.com. Thanks, everyone.
Fantastic. Thanks, y'all.